Swimming like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome to the Shrimp Tank Charleston Show. I'm your host, Eric Elkins, but in real life, I'm an entrepreneur and founder of Double E Insurance and Financial Solutions. Double E helps individuals and companies navigate through their financial and insurance portfolios and guide them to execute strategies, but also make important decisions. Double E provides our clients an entertaining and unique experience. The Shrimp Tank Charleston Show allows us the opportunity to interview and learn from the brightest entrepreneurs and leaders around. We are very selective on who comes on our show. We dive into their stories and discover what drove them to become successful. We will make sure we get out of them not only the wins, but also the losses they have had on their journey. We are a nationally syndicated podcast that can be heard and watched on YouTube, Google, Apple, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can also tune in and subscribe to our shows on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com/Charleston. We are very grateful for our guest today, Marques Ogden, but this show doesn't run without our producer, Kristen Killman, assistant editor, Henry Rickard, and my sidekick, Gustav Just, who also serves as our real-life Chief Investment Officer at Double E Financial. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm very excited to have Marques, Gus, Kristen. Henry's out doing whatever Henry's doing, but Gus, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on again. Appreciate it. I'm excited about this interview for sure.
Oh, yeah. I think Marques is going to be great. I know we're going to learn some great things, but I got to tell you, before I even when I came in the office this morning, Gus, I'm getting kind of upset about the way the U.S. economy and things are going. I bought a bottle of water, a smart bottle of water, nothing special. It was $8.
Wow.
And it wasn't even big.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy right now, and there's a lot of topics that go into, these price increases. But the most hot topic right now is just the running inflation. I mean, we just ran a study, and currently inflation's at 9%. But let me give you a couple.
I believe it.
Yeah, let me give you these couple other topics, though. Some interesting data I found. So going back to 2015, at that time we had negative inflation.
I like negative inflation.
yeah. So you go into 2000, right? So we had 3%. And then 1980 inflation was at 13%. So I can understand why you're paying $8 for a bottle of water right now.
Yeah, and gas, at least it came down a little bit. But, people are nervous now, I mean, it's a different world we're living in, whether you're retiring or whether you are in your 30s and 40s trying to figure out how you're going to make a living. Things are crazy, man.
Yeah, and I wish I had a crystal ball to tell when this is going to stop.
You're chief investment officer, man.
I know.
You should know the answers to this.
And figure it out when it's going to stabilize. And, just for an example, I mean, a lot of my clients have the similar concerns. I mean, it's on everybody's mind. For example, we had John come in last week, one of your clients, and sharing the same concerns. And you just got to, just put the plan together, and the money at the mailbox is what we have to figure out.
Yeah, well, I know you helped my buddy John realize that he didn't have as much money at the mailbox. I'm looking forward to hearing your story, Marques, from, being a professional athlete, getting paid, and then, wanting to have this career earnings so that you can live off of for the rest of your life. And I'm sure you're going to tell us how that story is not as easy as people think it is. And so, I'm all for, I need more money at the mailbox. Social Security is one thing, but we need more of that. So let me give a little more background on Mr. Marques Ogden, because he's definitely one of the more interesting stories and life stories that we've had on the show before. So as I mentioned at the preview, he was drafted in 2003 as an offensive lineman. You played 5 years in the NFL with a variety of different teams, including the Ravens. With your brother, you got to play with your brother, which is cool. And then you go on after 5 years. You end up starting a company, somewhat of a subcontractor earth moving company that becomes one of the biggest, brightest, best new companies around, minority owned in Maryland, Baltimore, that is. And you build that thing up, and you probably think the world's going to just keep going up, 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 and then boom, things change. And then let me go back. You went and played football for Howard, and then you have this All-American brother, Jonathan Ogden, who played, 12 seasons in the NFL?
Yep.
11-time All-Pro, which is unbelievable. And then you go on to build this thing, and then you're going to tell us all about how things, have a different story, that things can change, and you kind of hit rock bottom, and then you come back. You're like Rocky. You come back, and now you're here today to tell the story. And I'm super excited because, I look at your background on some of the research we did. You wrote a book, which I want to talk to you after, offline about, because we're trying to do the same thing. You have this inspirational speaking gig that you're doing. You're actually in town in Charleston today later today to do a speaking engagement. And I mean, you've lived a lot of life for a 41-year-old man.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
And you're married.
I am.
How many kids?
2.
2 kids. So, and it sounds like your dad was a major inspirational piece to you.
Was.
And your mom is an attorney.
Right.
Dad was an investment banker. I mean, you just have a very interesting background from the D.C. area, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, hopefully that gives a little bit of a picture. But now, I want to tell me about growing up in the D.C. area. What was life like? Because when I say the words investment banker dad, attorney mom, it doesn't say like you came from the slums of D.C. It sounds like you guys did a fairly decent life, if upper middle class or upper class. You tell me.
Great question. So it was upper middle class up until I turned 8, and then our parents divorced. And so when our parents divorced, that's when it got really hard. So we ended up having to, not have our mom in the picture. It was single dad. He was great. But my brother went to St. Albans, which is a very expensive private high school. So by the time I got to be a freshman, 8th grade freshman in, 8th grader or freshman in high school, my father ended up having some financial problems because he got sick with kidney failure. He was overweight, some other health issues where he was not able to work. And then at that point, life got really difficult. We grew up not in a really great area, based on what you think of, like, lawyer and, investment banker. So we actually only grew up about 5 minutes from one of the worst projects in DC, on Minnesota Avenue. So we had kind of like this life where we had some privilege when we were younger, but you go 5-7 minutes down the road, you're in the projects of DC. So when my dad lost everything, it got really hard. My brother was already in college. He was at UCLA. So, I mean, he knew about it, but didn't really see it like I did.
So, wait a minute. You got shafted a little bit. Your brother goes to the nice private school, living nice, good life.
Yeah, I mean, for that purpose, yeah.
And then dad's making money. He's doing well. And then, boom, he goes through his
savings,
financial stuff.
Yep.
And then your lifestyle starts to change along with Pop. And Mom, I'm just curious. Mom is around. She's around, or
she's around, but she wasn't putting anything in financially. So I went to a private high school as well, St. John's. And so when my dad ran out of money, my grandmother and my great aunt ended up paying my tuition to go to St. John's.
Got it. And so what was that like? Because your brother is this all-American football player. I'm assuming big height back then too.
Oh yeah. He was 6'9" in the 8th grade.
6'9" in 8th grade. And just so everybody knows, Marcus is what, 6'6", 6'7"?
6'6", yep.
Tallest guy to ever be on the Shrimp Tank Charleston show. So congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Until tomorrow, we got Xavier McDaniel, the X-Man, coming in tomorrow. So he's going to get you, but that's okay. So he's this great athlete. Are you also this great athlete?
No, in high school I was 6'3.5", so I didn't grow to be 6'6" until I got to Howard, and so I wasn't a great athlete. I mean, I was a good athlete. I was in a really competitive league, so the WCAC, which has schools like DeMatha, St. John's, Gonzaga, Carroll. St. John's actually now is ranked in the top 25 in the nation for high school. So they'll play like IMG. They'll go out to De La Salle in California. Like they've got a really great program. Matter of fact, there's a young guy named Terrell Lewis who was at St. John's. I remember me going there, doing a little speech to their football team. He went to Alabama. They actually just won the Super Bowl this year with the Rams.
Really?
Outside linebacker with
Well,
the Rams.
DeMatha is a big
DeMatha is huge.
Basketball school?
Both football and basketball. Huge.
And then you got Dunbar's
in
Baltimore, though, right?
Dunbar's in Baltimore. There's also one in D.C., but that D.C. is in the D.C. League. It's not with WCSC. So, again, you got DeMatha, St. John's, Carroll, Gonzaga, McNamara, Ireton, O'Connell. That's the WCAC.
So, okay, so your brother's doing well. He's in UCLA. He's making a name out there, obviously.
Sure.
And you and your brother, and you all have, what, a 7-year age?
6.5, 7 years.
Were you close with your brother growing up? Because that's a big age gap.
We were, but again, 6.5 year age gap is big. So when he graduated, high school, I was, 11.
And what was that like? So you go, I know you don't go to the same high school,
right?
But are these people expecting you? Is there all these expectations even at an early age for you that you got to be like your brother too? Because you're a big guy, so that's
kind of, but not as much as you would think. Because again, we're so far apart in age, so I didn't have that, playing at the same time, same high school, same thing. So I didn't really get a whole lot of that. And especially since I didn't play until I was a freshman in high school, I didn't play. Like my brother played in the 7th and 8th grade. I didn't play because at St. John's, it was just football freshman and up. There was no 7th and 8th grade football at St. John's.
Gotcha.
And your father played ball too, right?
Correct. He played
at Howard.
He played at Howard's, right?
And how big was he?
He was 6'4", and he played nose guard at Howard.
Okay.
Mom tall?
5'11".
So she's tall.
Yeah, for a woman, yeah, absolutely.
God. Yeah. Wish my wife's 5'11", 6 feet. I'm 5. I say I'm 5'10 and a half, but I doubt it. Okay, so I'm curious. So when your dad's going through this financial, do you even know? Does it even really affect you? Because you're still young and. Like, is it bothering you? Like, are you seeing it in your dad's eyes, his face when he gets home?
Yeah, my father's health started to deteriorate rapidly when I was in high school, big time. Like, his weight was on and off. He had a kidney failure, so he had to go to dialysis 3 times a week. He couldn't hold a job because of health issues. Couldn't really drink water because of going through the whole, kidney failure, the whole dialysis. So he had to kind of not drink. He had to really eat ice, not really a lot of water. So, I could definitely see it. Even as I got older, and then I went to Howard, which was only 10 minutes away from where I grew up. So I got this, all through college, I saw my dad just go down and down, 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 down as far as his health, appearance, the way he dressed, how he took care of himself. It was a rapid decline between high school and when I went off to the NFL.
And so when you are in high school, are you pretty much focused on football, or are you...
No, not really. I played because I want to be around my friends and I enjoyed it. But again, 6'3.5", I was probably 3'10" when I left high school. But again, when you're playing against guys in the WCAC, that's going to be, I won't say it's the normal size, but there's a lot of size in that league. So I wasn't like this humongous standout player. I only got one scholarship offer to play football in college, which was Howard.
Really? And so, but your work ethic, like, are you looking at your dad? Because I'm looking, one, you have to have something special to make it to the NFL.
Right.
Okay. You have 2 children that make it into the NFL, which is unbelievable, let alone one. Mm-hmm. So, but is it just where, are you partying in high school, or are you just pretty much just hanging out and doing your thing? I'm just curious.
No, good question. I was just kind of hanging out doing my thing. I was close to my football buddies. I still talk to a lot of those guys to this day from high school, but I wasn't a big partier. I didn't have my license until I got to college. I didn't have a car in high school. My high school was probably about 25 to 30 minutes away from where I lived. So my dad took me until I was a senior, and then one of my best friends had a car. And we would ride. He would pick me up from home and go to school, and we'd go football practice, and he'd take me home and all that. And so basically when I got to college, I could get home easier to see my dad. I can take a bus, which took me like 10 minutes to get on the bus versus like trying to find a ride or a car because I didn't have that until I was a redshirt sophomore at Howard. I didn't get a car till then.
So, okay, so you go to Howard.
Yep.
And you play football there.
Yep.
And what happens? Like, is that where you start honing in on the skills of because obviously you're good enough to make it into you get to get drafted.
Right. So I started really honing in on my skills right going into my last year. I started as a redshirt freshman. So I was a 4-year starter, offensive line. And right after my junior year, I started seeing my name in different draft books and, these different magazines and, Marques Ogden, Howard University, rising senior, 6'6", 325, good agility, good footwork, great work ethic, needs to work on his knee bend and work on his lower body, push, or I saw all kind of stuff, good, bad, and indifferent. So once I saw that in some draft books, I said, hey, Jonathan, what do you think? Do you think I have enough to make it? He said, yeah, man, you've got the talent, but you got to work hard this last year, and you got to give everything you've got. So that's what I did. And I actually focused totally on football and, of course, school. But I didn't do any partying, any drinking, any things like that. I just kind of said, hey, I'm going to give it my all for 12 months and see what happens. And I got invited to the Hula Bowl, which was great because my head coach was Mac Brown, who is now at Chapel Hill. He's a coach going back to Chapel Hill. And the other coach was Larry Coker from Miami.
Yeah.
But I played with guys like, you'll know this name very well. Cliff Kingsbury was my quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was my quarterback on the team. And we were playing. He was the starting quarterback. I was the starting right tackle. So we had a lot of guys that got drafted from that game that played in the NFL. Jordan Black, who played for the Chiefs, Cliff Kingsbury, Alonzo Jackson, my good friend Brett Romberg. So I met all those guys at the Hula Bowl. Then I had a pro day. I remember getting worked out by, God rest his soul, Jim Hannafin, who was the line coach with the Rams. I got worked out by of course, the Jaguars O-line coach, the Bengals, the Colts, the Browns, the 49ers.
Did your brother have any input in to help in this situation?
He could really help me as far as what to prepare for in the workouts. But other than that, no, because he doesn't know those coaches, what they like, what they don't like. They all loved him, but he doesn't know what each coach is like, what's their philosophy. They like run blocking more, they like this style more, they like pass blocking more, they like this style more. So he couldn't give me any information about that. But the cone drills, the shuttles, how to run those things properly and do all that, he could help me there.
All right, so are you getting so now you're getting up to be drafted.
Yep.
And is it a position where you're going, hey, I'm going to play in the NFL just like my brother, and I'm going to – is that the mentality then? Or are you going, was it even something you were really that dying and passionate for?
Oh, yeah. Well, going into that last year, I wanted to do it because, if I'm going to give my all in that regard, I've got to get that going. And once you really have that whole focal point, that's what has to happen. So I literally – push myself and I said, I'm going to go ahead for these next 12 months and I'm going to give it my all. So it did become my passion, my drive going into my last year at Howard.
And so you get drafted in the 6th round by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mm-hmm. And now that you've been drafted, are you now going, I'm going to prove to these guys I'll be starting, you're not going to be talking about Jonathan Ogden anymore. You're going to be talking about, I'm just curious.
Yeah, of course. When you get there, you want to have that type of proof, you want to have that type of process, and you want to say, hey, literally, I am going to show them that they made the right selection. That's any draft pick. You want to say, hey, this team did the right thing by making me one of their 5 or 6 or 7 selections, how many of they have, because you don't want anybody to think that a team wasted a draft pick. So you always have that positioning or that mental mindset that I'm going to go out, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to make sure these people feel they got a great investment with this draft pick, which is me.
Guys, you're listening to the Shrimp Tank Charleston. We're sitting here talking to Marques Ogden, and we got to take a quick break, but I can't wait to get back because I got so much more to go over with you. I can't wait to get into your financial situation, building this company. where you are today. I can't wait to do all this stuff, but we got to take a break. We'll be right back with Marques Ogden.
Attention. Do you own a whole life or universal life insurance policy? Were you told to expect a big tax-free nest egg at retirement, or that dividends will pay for the policy instead of you? Agents frequently sell products like this that are profitable for them, but not for you. Let Double E audit your policy at no cost. Call now to find out how Double E Insurance and Financial Solutions can help you. 843-936-6352. DoubleELLC.com. Securities offered through Fortune Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Elkins Financial, Double E LLC, and Fortune Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities.
Welcome back, guys, to the Shrimp Tank Charleston podcast. I'm your host, Eric Elkins, as well as founder and CEO of Double E Insurance and Financial Solutions. We have been speaking to the great Marques Ogden, who was telling us what it's like to try to get into the NFL, let alone get drafted in the NFL. And then now we're going to talk about how he actually had a career in the NFL. But we took a quick break, and now we're back. And so, Marques, you were saying you get drafted by the Jaguars. And now, which is an incredible – your dad's got to be like, wow, I got two boys in the NFL, right?
Yep, absolutely it was.
And now that you're there, your coach back then, who was it? Was it Jack Del Rio?
Jack Del Rio, yep.
God, why did that guy get fired?
You know what? Unfortunately, just like in big business, people will turn on you. And some of his coaches were trying to give him some hard times, and then he ended up having to let go of them. And then the culture was not really sound, and it wasn't because of him. It was because of sometimes the coaches that were under him wanted to say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do it this way. And then once you start losing, unfortunately, you can either say, hey, I'll take the Bengals, right? The Bengals were a horrible team for 2, 3, I don't know how many years. But then this new coach coming in, Zach, he said, I need to draft a quarterback. Got Burrows, who kind of helped get some culture shape. Then he drafted some other guys, some other key players, right? Got a couple of veterans in. And now the Bengals have one of the better cultures in the NFL, which is why they're winning. And they, rightfully so, extended him on a long-term contract. Jack never could get that type of support, I feel, from some of his coaches that he brought in. And when you have that type of unhealthy, toxic culture, just like in business, it can cause cracks at the foundation. And Jack just could never get full stride in the right people, the right coaches. And then eventually, if you're not winning, unfortunately, it's quick enough for what the owners want, you will get fired.
Was the owner the guy who owns the Jags now?
No, the owner was Mr. Wayne Weaver, the Weaver family. So He founded 9 West Shoe.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I always thought that guy was a really good coach.
Oh, he was amazing. Jack was a player at USC, Minnesota. He was a true players coach, not too lax, but not too hard. He understood what it took for you to play at your top peak performance and how to, prepare and how to practice. So, I had some other coaches like Brian Billick, great guy, but sometimes could be a little too lax, right? Mike Mularkey was my coach in Buffalo, phenomenal human being, but we hit every freaking day. Mondays, we were just kind of doing rehab or walkthrough. Tuesday was our off day. Wednesday, Thursday, even Fridays, we were hitting until week 16. So, a lot of guys were having injuries and constant nicks.
Probably popping Percocets left and right.
Oh, you better believe it. So, but Jack was a really great blend of not too lax, but not too rough.
And he was a great influence on you even outside of football too, right?
Oh, yeah. I quote Jack in a lot of my speeches. Yeah. One of the best quotes I have from Jack is, in life, be your own CEO. He said, I can't tell you what time to – well, let me go back. He said, I can tell you what time to be here at the Jaguars. You got practice at this time, you got breakfast this time. Yeah, you got to be here then. But I can't tell you if you want to come in early. I can't tell you if you want to stay late. I can't tell you if you want to go out into the Jaguar, Jacksonville community and build relationships with our fan base. I can't do that. You can, but I can't. So even though the Jaguars, yes, we sign your check. Yes, it's our logo on your check. You're the one's going to have to say, I want to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to do it before hours, after hours, and go the additional mile.
Are you making decent money in the beginning of this?
Oh yeah, of course.
Like what was I don't know back then. What was the pay back then?
So for rookies, it was base was $250, and then you've got bonuses and sign-ons and all your other stuff. So my contract was 3 years. I think it was like 1.8, something like that. I remember the exact amount, but yeah, I mean you're making.
And 1.8 guaranteed or non-guaranteed?
No, the only thing guaranteed is your signing bonus. You have to make the team every. So my signing bonus was guaranteed was 125 or 150.
Same agent as your brother?
Yes, I had Marvin Demoff, one of the best.
Okay.
Yeah, Marvin Demoff was one of the best. Marvin was out of California. One of his other big clients was Junior Seau. He also had Troy Polamalu. He had Phil and Chris Sims. I mean, he had some powerhouse guys.
And so you get there and you have your first season going there. Anything, was it what you expected it to be, or was it, what was the, I mean, I'm curious, what was that like?
The game was a lot faster than I thought, which was what I expected. But what was really interesting was everybody was good. There was not one person on the field who wasn't good. Like when you get to the actual season and you have your 53-man roster and your practice squad, all 61 guys are good football players, and there's not a slouch. And you have to practice and prepare and do everything every single time. There's no taking plays off. There's no being lackadaisical. There's no let me just say, hey, I mean, it's kind of brotherly, do this, do that. No, that doesn't exist.
But I got to think in the NFL, it's just like in any other industry where everybody's great. I get that. But they're not everybody's going to put in the hours, the effort. They're going to enjoy this life now. I'm an NFL player. The women want me, blah, blah, blah. People want to talk to me. They're not staying after late hours to study the book or am I right? Or
it just depends. And the guys that do that don't have long careers.
And who were you, when you first were on the Jags, who were you most impressed with? I'm just curious. Like, who was you like, God, man, this guy's ethic?
That's a good question. I would say Fred Taylor for sure. Fred Taylor was a phenomenal running back, great player, came out of Florida. He's a Florida boy, so he was able to stay home with the Jaguars, had a great career. Fred should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know why he's not. I mean, he had a phenomenal amount of rushing yards, great runner. He could run outside. He could run through the middle. He could run people over. And, he was one of the most professional, hardworking teammates I ever saw. And he was just I still talk to Fred to this day. Actually, they're doing really well now. They have a podcast called I Am an Athlete. And so it's him, Channing Crowder, who's a linebacker out of Miami. And then they have, I think it's Ryan Clark, who played for Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And I forgot who the other one. Chad Ochocinco does some things with them. I think he also is now their current as a consistent member. But their podcast is called I Am an Athlete. And they do really great, man. They've had on, rappers to high-level athletes to, political. I mean, I'm called political. People like, activists. I mean, they've done a really nice job with that podcast.
All right. So, I mean, I could sit here for hours and hours and hours and sit here and talk to you, but I can't. So I want to. So you have this career. What? And it goes for 5 years. Mm-hmm. What happens to where this just ends?
I had some back injuries. My father passed away, and then I got really small for O-line. I got down to about 280, and I went to the Titans to try out, and I made the team, and then I'm in practice doing well and in training camp having a good preseason. Then I hurt my back. And I said, man, this doesn't feel right. And then I remember going to my old line coach, who actually became the head coach, and now I don't know where he's at. I think he was last in Pittsburgh. Was Mike Munchak was my old line coach. Yeah. And I remember telling Mike, I've got some things going on. I said, Marques, look, if this is how it is, we're either going to cut you, and you can just be done, and that's that, or you can take a settlement, and which means the last team you were on, we're going to release you. And your last team you were on, you'll get a payout from them, and then it'll go towards you being vested. It'll go towards your later on, like your 401k, all that kind of stuff.
Is it 5 years that you have to make it?
3.
3 years.
3 years, 3 games.
And that's like the pension.
Pension, 401k, Pete Bell Roselle, Pete Roselle, Bell, fund, all that kind of stuff. Happens to have 3 years, 3 games.
And is the amount of your pension based on how many years you're in?
Yep.
Okay, because like OJ gets like I don't hold me to this, but I thought he gets like $400,000 a year from
Something about that. Yeah, that sounds about. He was like an 8-year guy. Yeah, it might be a little high, but it's around that. That sounds about right.
Which is great. So it's not about how good you were. It's more on the tenure, or it does matter how good you
No,
are.
it's a tenure. How long you play. Now, of course, if you, now as you're playing, if you're playing every play you're in, you get like I think it's like a $50 or $100 bonus. So they have all kinds of incentives, in your contract with the league, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so while
you have
you're
certain catches.
right.
and-
So while you're playing, how good you are helps you get money then. But once you retire, it goes off how many years you were playing.
When does that kick in for you?
So you can take it out. Normally it's 55, but if you want to go out early, you can do it at 45. But if you take it out at 45, you're paying a penalty.
Okay. And then when you're playing that 5 years, and whatever the career earnings that you had, are you focused and structured where you go, okay, I'm going to set aside this much toward savings, I'm going to set aside this much for living, and do you have direction from people?
Yes, because my father was, an investment banker. So even though he wasn't working, he kind of did a lot of things for me and my brother with advice, how to do this, how to do that. And actually, I did an article, this was a while ago, with CNN Money. And I remember I found it, actually, and I still have it somewhere probably in my garage because we bought a new house last October. And I had like my budget. So I had like, okay, I'm making X amount of dollars from the Jaguars. I was making like, $13,000 a week pre-tax. It was like $9,000 a week after tax. So, okay, I put everything in. Okay, so I've got my rent. I've got my truck payment. I've got my gas. I've got my food. I've got my entertainment. I've got my insurance. I got everything lined up. So it looked like I was doing, it looked like on paper, I was probably paying about maybe $3,000 to $4,000 a month for bills, rent, car, everything like this. This is 2003, so that's pretty decent. It was kind of high maybe, but not too bad. I'm in Florida. I'm in a nice apartment. I didn't want to live somewhere crappy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but I was making $32,000, almost $34,000, a month after tax. So basically, I was netting in the black $30,000. So
What were you doing with it?
put it away. It's put this investors. Put to the side stocks.
But if
whatever.
you didn't have your dad, and I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, and I'm going to get in trouble when this goes to the YouTube channel because I'm going to get comments that I'm interrupting you when I shouldn't be. So I apologize to those people out there. But if you didn't have your dad to help kind of guide you there, what happens for those people?
Well, the NFL, if you're drafted, you go to the symposium. Not anymore. That used to be. Now each team has different things they do for their rookies, like a financial planning, like a life skills, like how to deal with females, how to deal with family. They bring in speakers to talk to your rookies. So for us, we went to the symposium in West Palm Beach, Florida, and they did all kinds of stuff. From financial planning to team building to forecasting. I remember we had on our panel Peyton Manning spoke on our panel. Tony Dungy was on our panel, one of our panels. Bill Belichick was on one of the panels, and they were just talking about life and sports and this, that, and the other. So it was great. But you're going to get the information, but what you do with it really comes down to you.
Yeah, that's like going to the gym once, having a workout with that pre-trainer,
and then think I'm gonna be buff after that. Right? Doesn't happen.
So it really comes down to having a really strong team around you that's hopefully helping you, your agent, and some advisors and all kinds of stuff. Because to me, that one-time symposium is great for the day. I'm all pumped up.
It's a 3-day symposium. It's cool for 3 days, but again, that's why they stopped it. And then they bring people in for the rookies. And then veterans, I think they even have things for veterans. If you want to go, it's non-mandatory. But for rookies, all the different speakers coming in, it's absolutely mandatory. Because I've done work with the Bills. They're clients of mine. So I've worked with guys like Tre'Davious White, Josh Allen, Deion Dawkins, Ed Oliver, some of their star players. I met them, they were all rookies. And so I helped them in that type of stuff.
So, okay, so the career comes to an end.
Yep.
Physically, it's just not feeling so great anymore.
Right.
And now what? Now what's the trigger that makes you start Cayden Enterprises, Premier Enterprises?
Well, the real trigger was I was tired of drinking Hennessy at 10, 11 in the morning till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. That was the real trigger.
So when you quit, you're now just free.
Yep.
And you're how old?
27, almost 28.
Okay, so you're 28 years old, and you're now going to figure out what you're going to do.
With life, yep.
How long did it take you to figure this out?
6 months.
And so were you partying hard for 6 months?
As hard as a rock star.
Really?
Yep.
Living where?
In Baltimore.
Okay. Your brother's there?
Yep.
Is your brother married, settled down?
He's with he was married, yeah, but he got married in 2004. So he'd been married for 3 years at the time.
And so he's kind of in a different place than you.
Yeah. He's married, all type of stuff. So, yeah.
I mean, at that time, I'm saying.
Yeah, correct, yes.
Okay. And so keep going. Sorry.
So I was just partying like a rock star. If it was Hennessy or gin or the club or...
What about Cavassier?
Yeah, I did that too. I didn't have a preference.
I like Cavassier over
So
Hennessy.
did I. At that time, it didn't matter what it was.
Which one's better?
At that time, to me, it was probably Hennessy. Now, as I'm older, I would probably say I don't drink Hennessy. I don't really drink dark liquor anymore. I'm pretty much, if I drink liquor, it's going to be Tanqueray or gin. I don't touch dark anymore.
Okay. Sorry for the side
That's all right.
note.
No,
I can't help it. I mean,
so again, I'm just drinking and doing pain killers and getting tatted up and just doing all things.
Are you in pain all day too? Still, I mean, like,
Yeah, I was more in mental pain than anything else. I mean, the back was really hurting, so were the knees, but it was more the mental pain than anything else.
Yeah, I love that you bring this up because so many people just hide from this, and the fact that you're even talking about openly that you were taking the painkillers.
I was.
You don't. And I've taken them because I was in the hospital for a period of time for it's not my show, it's your show. But at the end of the day, I took it. My dad was addicted to them because he had a horrible back. And I got to watch what happened to him, and I was like, I'm not getting stuck on these. So you don't need those now, or you?
No, I don't need those now. No, I don't.
Because that's hard to break, man.
Oh yeah, it took years. Yeah, it took years.
Okay, and so all right, and then you go and when's the epiphany that we're going to start?
So after
this?
about 6, I remember one morning I woke up and my right arm was tattooed from this tattoo is this right here. This tattoo up to about the Buffalo Soldier and the Ace of Spades and my dad's nickname. And I was like, wow, when did I get that? I was like, wait a second, what? And I looked in the mirror, I was like, wow. I went and got a whole half-sleeve tattoo. I was drunk, I don't remember it, and I don't remember even driving back home after I got it. Wow. So at that point, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So I stopped, and I got myself under control. I still would drink, but just I learned how to social drink, not drink just to get blitzed. And then that's when I found Cayden Premier Enterprises, and I got onto the next phase of my life, which was building an 8-figure-a-year construction business.
On that note, you're listening to the Shrimp Tank Charleston podcast. We're sitting here talking to former athlete, professional athlete, NFL player, entrepreneur, speaker, inspirational speaker, coach, you name it, this guy's doing it, Marques Ogden. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
If you're like most successful business executives, you would probably rather stick your arm in a bucket of snakes than formulate a strategy for your insurance and financial needs. Who even understands estate planning, 401k plans, or Keymen insurance? We do. We are Double E, your virtual Chief Insurance and Financial Officer. Let us free you up to do more of what you do best and less of what we do better. Call 843-936-6352. DoubleELLC.com. Securities offered through Fortune Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Elkins Financial, Double E LLC, and Fortune Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities.
Guys, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to the Shrimp Tank Charleston Show. I'm your host, Eric Elkins, and again, we have Marques Ogden, former NFL player, entrepreneur, inspirational speaker. You can have him come and speak to your company, to your organization, your trade or organization, like he is in town right now in Charleston, South Carolina. Going to speak later to hundreds of people later tonight, and we're so fortunate to have him stop here on the way, and so maybe when you get done, I'll meet you for a drink. You're going to be speaking in Wild Dunes, Isle of Palms area, and I live in Sullivan's Island. So
Nice.
maybe I'll have you come over, but you'll probably be stuck talking to these guys for a long time.
Well, you're a vodka drinker, so you have to break out the gin for that.
I think my bar has.
Yeah,
enough
that's
for him.
true.
I have
That's
I have
true.
Tanqueray for this gentleman. So you start the company.
Yep.
And I want to know how you just picked that, but I can't even go there because we don't have enough time for that.
I picked the company because I wanted to make money, and there was a huge need for concrete, demolition, earthwork, and I jumped in.
And you know nothing about this.
Zero.
Okay, so you jump in.
Yep.
What do? You build a business plan?
Yep, I got a business partner who was 41 years my elder, who I thought knew all about commercial construction. In reality, God rest his soul, he knew about residential construction, and I was too naive and too stupid to know the difference. And we got into business, and we got going, and we had massive success. After one of my mentors went out of business in the dirt work area, we jumped in, boom, and we just went from like $1 million to 4 to 8 to got to 15, and this rolled.
Is that guy who is no longer living? Was he a football fan, and that's how you got to know him, or was he somewhat? I'm just curious, like how you guys always get.
Met him through another guy who brought us all together, and we found out that we did a background check on all three of us, and that guy had like 5 or 6 pages of fraud, embezzlement. So we kicked him to the curb, and then me and that guy partnered together.
Okay, and so you start this company, and day one, how many employees?
Day one was just 2 of us.
Okay. A year from then.
Grew up to about 10, and then went to 30.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you make money the first year?
No. Second year we made money. Third year we got better. Fourth year we were off to the races.
And you're like, this is great.
Yep. Like life's great.
And you're high, and not high like high. I'm saying you're high in the sense of, man, I am building this organization. We are rocking and rolling.
Yep.
It's not hard.
Yep, that's what I thought. And it's not hard in business if you have the right people. The problem was, as I grew success, I grew an ego. And when my ego grew, a lot of my best employees got sick of me, which I totally understand. They left, and then that in conjunction and combination with a really bad job I did for a big client in downtown Baltimore, where I spent about $3 million of my money in less than 90 days, and the developer and the contractor denied my change order. Then I ran out of money. The bank shut me off. I go bankrupt.
It's over.
It's over.
And I want you to go back when you were doing this, because this is why we do this show, to learn about these stories and let other people learn. I mean, you're doing great. The company, you don't think this is ever going away. When these employees are leaving you, is it where you're like, these guys they're idiots? I don't know. I mean, is it where you're just that naive and narcissistic almost?
At that time, yes, because we were still high on our money, and we had a bank line behind us, and we had money in the bank, and we had these big jobs. So I'm like, screw them. I'll find some other people that are just as good as they were. Never did.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so if you're listening to this show, human capital is the best capital you can have. If you don't have human capital, then you're not going to win. Like in our business today, we have a great team, great website person, publicist, content creator. We have a great person that's trademark and patent, videographer. We have a great accountant. We have a great, bookkeeper. Everybody on the team works well together, and they're great.
That's what I tell Eric, man. It's human capital.
It's so funny he says this. So I'm in a group called Vistage. Are you familiar with it?
Of course,
Okay.
yeah.
You should be a speaker on the circuit for Vistage. We'll talk about that offline. I can introduce you to somebody that can help you there. So I was just having this meeting the other day with Dan Wurtenberg. He's one of the top chairs in the world at Vistage, and he's my chair. And he was doing some work with Michael Milken back about 20 years ago. And Michael Milken just kept saying it to him. He just told me the story. He kept saying it over and over again. The most important thing is human capital. And he was just telling me this 2 days ago. He was in my office. And it's funny how you're saying the same thing. And you're talking about Michael Milken, billions of dollar net worth type guy. And so when this ends, are you kind of like, is it that quick when it?
Oh yeah, 90 days. It was done. I mean, basically, I remember it was in Christmas time. We barely had anything. And I met my wife on Match.com in July of 2012. Then Christmas 2012, we're basically just piecemeal and stuff. I remember for my oldest daughter, my stepdaughter's birthday, we had like one little piece of pizza, a cake. Like we got like, I don't know, like a gift card to something like a Justice, I don't know, like $10 gift card. Like we were broke. I mean, we had nothing. And I remember January hits, February hits, and then by March, we're packing up everything, and then people were stealing trucks from the office, stealing laptops from the office, breaking and vandalizing. People were just it was mutiny. People were trying to we couldn't pay payroll, we couldn't pay anybody's stuff. Insurance got lapsed. I mean, it became like hell on earth. So it was just like mutiny. So people were stealing stuff.
I would never imagine trying to steal from Marques Ogden. I mean, he's definitely got the largest arms that have ever entered the show. Wouldn't you agree, Gus?
Absolutely.
Kristen, would you agree with that? I mean, I have decent arms, Marcus, but I mean, the dude's jacked. So that has nothing to do with this. This is a great story, though. But you literally go, like, there's no money. Nothing.
I got to Raleigh.
And she stays with you.
She does. We moved to Raleigh.
And you meet her on Match.com.
Match.com.
And it's worked?
It worked. We've been together now, married for 7 years next month, and together for 10.
Well, give me her name.
Bonnie Ogden is her name.
Bonnie Ogden. That's awesome, Bonnie. I love to hear the story that she met you when you were obviously doing well.
I was doing very well, yeah.
And she stayed with you.
She did.
She's a good woman, man.
She is. She could, and I gave her the option to leave. I said, if you want to leave, there's a door. I'm not going to blame you. I mean, when we got together, you didn't sign up for this, And she said, no. You were successful with your first business. You made some mistakes. If you just need to figure out what to do next and how you're going to get going, and let's get it going. That's what happened.
And because you talk about your ego, were you the same egotistical guy at home too? Or did you tone it down at home?
No. I was, and I had a really big ego with Cayden for sure when we were together. And then I ended up, when we moved to Raleigh, I still had a big ego. I had nothing. I basically thought it was my partner's fault and my employees and all that. And so my ego didn't really get humbled until my spoiled milk moment when I was working as a custodian downtown Raleigh, and I had been fired from 2 jobs in the same week, Merrill Lynch and another construction company. And then I had to.
Why did you get fired?
Merrill Lynch, I just wasn't passing the practice exams, all my fault. And then with the construction company, I worked in their sales store, and then 5 days later, they shut the sales store down and they fired me. So that was just like bad luck. And then I ended up.
And your dad passes away during this whole thing.
He passed away in 2006. So I would already. So that was like 6-7 years before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was. But again, everything kind of compiled. And then when I got here, I ended up doing some football training and coaching. Raleigh, not here, Raleigh, and things were going okay. But then when the season started to slow down because, kids weren't, they were doing football, they weren't doing trainings, I needed another job to pay the bills, and that's why I took a job as a custodian for $8.25 an hour.
$8.25 an hour. NFL player is, and brother of a Hall of Fame player. And boom, this is what it's led to. Now we're how old?
I was at the time 32.
Okay, 32. What's going on with your relationship with your brother at this time?
My brother was just in Vegas. He's
retired.
He had just. Well, no.
Does he know? Does he know that you're in this?
He knows. I mean, he doesn't know to the extent, but he knows I'm in really bad shape. Yes.
And is he trying to offer help, or are you too ego to go?
It wasn't his problem. So. Never was it an option to go to him, because if I go to him and he bails me out, then I don't learn anything. I just learned about.
You always knew that?
Yes, always.
Did he ever say anything like, you need me to help you?
No.
And is that because of the way you two were brought up? Because when I heard your story and read your story, we both said he had to go to his brother to talk to him. I mean, that's what the general.
Yeah, people
but then
think-
I'm thinking I wouldn't go to my sister.
No, because we were raised like we weren't raised to go to people to solve our problems. That's not how we were raised.
Very proud of you, man.
That's great.
When my dad lost everything, and he didn't go to anybody to ask for help. That's not what it was like.
So so when you do have conversations with your brother and you're in this down time of your life, what is that like? Because your brother's obviously, he's financially fine. He's happy living in Vegas.
Yeah, but again, he has his own problems too. So he's financially fine, but other things, stresses of life, he's going under. So it does, just because you have money doesn't mean you don't have problems.
Well said. And so then how long does that go on where it's the pity party?
Oh, it goes on for 6 months. From April 2013 to September 2013 was a pity party. When I had my spoiled milk moment, rock bottom moment of clarity where somebody's trash, rotten meat, nasty protruding garbage covered my body, my skin, and my clothes, that's when I stopped the pity party. I went home and I wrote down my 3 biggest strengths. And then I said, I'm a good storyteller. I'm a good communicator. I want to help people. Let's start speaking. And I was listening to podcasts at that time, and the guy's name was like, what is his name? Like, is it Tony Robbins or Tony Bobbs? No. That's right. His name is Anthony Robbins. So he's a speaker. Why can't I? So I started speaking. 2.5 years, not one paid job.
2.5 years.
Wow.
And how did you even get the speaking gigs?
Just networking, talking to people in my network, telling them what I wanted to do. And I got free work, but nothing paid. Finally got my first paid job in April 2016 with Miller Mock College in Wilmington, North Carolina. And then I learned the business. I got coached. I got mentored. I got
2
better.
years, though.
2.5 years, I didn't get a paid job. 2.5 years.
And what's your attitude? See, I would be I know how I am. I've been married for almost 20 years. The greatest, sounds like Bonnie, great woman. But I bring it home, and I can be complete asshole. And then she bosses me around. She takes over. And then I realize I don't have a lot of power. But at the end of the day, are you taking it out on her, or is she?
No, because it's just the same. You're frustrated, you're depressed, you're upset, but it wasn't her fault. But of course, it caused tension in the marriage. And let me see, we got married in 2015, so it was tension in our relationship, marriage, when you don't make money or you don't have finances or you don't own anything. We're renting and we're trying to just basically stay afloat and all this stuff. Yeah, it causes problems. Of course it does, because if you don't have money to take care of stuff, then your life is a lot different.
And so, all right, so 2 years, which is, I love that you stayed with this. And how much did you make when you got your first speaking gig? $1,500, which you had to be like, that felt like 100,000.
I thought it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then was it like, then the rain started and it just...
No, because I had to get coached to get better and had to learn my craft. I had to learn one of the laws of value, which states that your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. And I got better and I got coached and I started doing more jobs, started getting paid. So we've been doing now, getting paid works. It's actually 6 years this month. We're in April still. So 6 years this month. We've worked for 37 Fortune 500 brands in the last 6 years.
Wow.
Of the 37, 15 are Fortune 100.
Wow.
Like Nestle, AXA Equitable, Merrill Lynch, Your Insurance Guide, New York Life, MetLife, Liberty Mutual, Mutual of Omaha. Like, we've done all these big companies in the last 6 years.
And out of all the different things you've done in your career, from playing football to running a construction company, building one of the fastest growing construction companies in Maryland, and now to this, is there anything? What's the most fun?
This for sure.
You love it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, this is what it is. Like coaching people, consulting, speaking. We're having a podcast. That's it. It's this right here.
Yeah, tell everybody. I want to plug a couple things because your story is so good and so I want to make sure that people know how to hear more about you. Tell them about your podcast, because I know you have a podcast.
Yep, it's called the Lev, L-E-V, and Marques Show. And it is on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, all that good stuff. Me and my co-host, Leverett Ball, it's a sports business podcast. We've had people on like Joe Namath, to Michael Strahan, to Willie Parker Jr. We're talking to Matthew McConaughey, trying to line him up to come on the show. Gus Farrat. I mean, we've had just Jeff Garcia. We've had great guests on, and then we've had business people, entrepreneurs, executives.
I know that you guys, one of the reasons why you came was to try to see if you could get me on. We'll talk after. I'm not sure. The schedule's hard, but we'll talk about it. Marques, I don't want to go there on the show right now.
I understand.
So you got that Lev and Marques, and you can hear that. You can listen and tune into his podcast. He also has written multiple books, best-selling books. So if you want to hear his story, I want you to share that with everybody too.
Yeah, they can go to Amazon or our website, which is www.marques, M-A-R-Q-U-E-S, Ogden, O-G-D-E-N.com. And it's The Success Cycle. It was published January 28th of 2020. It is a business-based book. It actually was in and still is in every Barnes & Noble bookstore across the country. And as a matter of fact, I saw it was actually right next to Dave Ramsey's Money Book, which I thought was really awesome. And it talks about my story. It talks about three major components: ambition, drive, and hard work. Ambition is create your blueprint for your life. Drive, be inspired over motivated to do your best. And hard work, focus on yourself, not the competition. And that's really what it's about.
You know, I love when you said when you came home after that spoiled milk moment, and you came home and you took out the pen and paper and you wrote down the three best things that you're at. You know, I always tell people, I tell this to anyone, and I practice it myself. If you don't write this stuff down and you don't look at it, then you are hurting yourself in terms of trying to get to these ultimate goals and achievements that you're trying to go to and strive for. And it's not even hard. And it's so much fun to just say, you know what, I am pretty damn good. I can do this. And you know, obviously you pointed that out when you had that moment and you did that. And so not only I know you do the inspirational speaking, but you also are consultant for helping businesses coach. Tell me, what does that look like? What do you give me an example of one of the situations you're doing that for?
So like one of my clients is a company called Weaver Popcorn. We're going to work with them they agreed to terms today. So it's going to be, I'm working with two groups. Each group will be 1.5 hours per month. So it'll be 2 calls for the group. And we're going to work on things like accountability, emotional intellect, adaptability, how to connect with frontline workers, all that kind of good stuff. I've done consulting for a company called Red Gold. They're the second largest supplier of ketchup in the world out of Indiana, Ellenwood, Indiana. So I've done work with them. And again, consulting is great because we work with people, and it's kind of more like a forum where we have we'll create a PowerPoint, we'll go through stuff, but it's more of a discussion where we talk about things. Because again, I want the consulting to be very, interactive, where we're working on stuff and having discussions around certain topics and things that the teams can actually, implement into their everyday lives. And then the coaching is like one-on-one, where it's more structured, where I'm kind of talking more. It's an agenda. It's a format of how we're going to go through stuff and a process, and the clients can expect either in 4 months, 8 or 16 months to get from where they are to where they want to be.
So when you get into that piece, to me, this is so ideal because you've lived this.
Right.
So many people, and it's almost annoying to me. So many people are telling me they're business coaches, and we have some car alarm going off in the back of you hear that? That's driving me crazy. I'm like, but you've never even run a business. And you're going to tell me? It's like the person who says, oh, yeah, I know what it's like to have cancer. It's got to be terrible. No, you wouldn't. If you've never had it, you don't know it. If you've never had a baby, you can't relate to that.
True that.
If you've never gone to the combines and run and done everything you can to get drafted by the NFL, you can't relate to this. Right. You have the experience being so successful to watching a company deteriorate and go away, and then to have to get back off the mat and do it. To me, you were the ideal, perfect model to be a coach. To me, so, and I'm not just saying that. I'm
Well, it's kind of like, I tell my clients, you're paying me so you don't end up like me. That's just the real deal. Because if you actually do what I say and you can tell me what's going on, where you're trying to go, we can create a roadmap, a blueprint, but you can also avoid the pitfalls that I made, like ego, not marketing correctly, not treating your staff correctly, breakdown of communication. I mean, all these things could go pop, pop, pop. So, we are the brand, and if you want to be successful, you want to do so you don't end up like I did with Cayden.
All right, so let's go back to that. If you guys want to take advantage of Marques in his business coaching or just life coaching, if you don't have to own a business.
No, you don't.
You could just have his help to kind of help you guide to figure out how you can maybe one day have your own business or overachieve in your business. Again, they're going to go to your website.
Correct. www.marques, MARQUES, Ogden, OGDEN.com, or you can email me at marques@marquesogden.com.
Yes. No, keep in mind, when he spells Marques, my middle name's Marcus, but I spelled Marcus.
Very typical.
Again, he's Marques. So people probably want to call you Marquise, I'm guessing. And don't do that, guys. This is Marques. He's unique. He's different. Everybody, that's one of the things you got to do when you're successful. All right, so I want to kind of come to a conclusion here, but I know we have subscribers to our show. They love our show. They're going to love this episode. There's no doubt in my mind. And we give them the opportunity to get a feel of who the guest is and then, give us some questions that they want to know. So I'm going to let you, Gus, tell them.
Oh, thanks, Eric.
Why don't you tell us what the questions that we got? I don't know. Kristen picked them from the different. I mean, it was bags and bags of mail.
I know we got a lot from Pittsburgh that I guess we had to pull out. They weren't appropriate, but
due to
the Ravens and Steelers rivalry. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh, big Steelers fan. But
I understand. Nobody's perfect.
right.
My wife's from Pittsburgh too.
Yeah, we got one, Frank from Columbus, Ohio. What would be your recommendation on how to build a network when opening a business?
I would tell people to go to your existing network and let them know what you're doing, and then ask them, do you know 3 to 5 business contacts I could connect with to let them know about what I'm doing? And then keep doing that over and over again, and it multiplies to tens and 20s and hundreds of people that know what you're doing. But always start with your internal network, because they're going to be more likely to help you than anybody else.
Start with 5, you're saying.
Correct. And then go to multiples of 3 to 5, and then ask that next person 3 to 5, and it just starts to grow exponentially.
And do you get that person in your network to call them for you?
Or you can have them do an email introduction, a group text, anything very simplistic, and then you run with it from there.
Okay. Thank you, Frank, from Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. Stacy from Roslyn. Is it Roslyn, New York?
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing it? Yeah.
That's right.
If you started your construction company today, what would be the most important trait or strategy you would focus on today?
I would focus on making sure that there is a healthy culture and that my people could feel free to say what they needed to say without fear of being judged. That was the worst thing I did with the company. We had success, and I started to say it was my way or the highway. And instead of just saying, hey, my trusted people, my estimator, my project manager, my superintendents, my foremen, and instead of them running the company and me kind of overseeing and supporting them, I want to run everything. And because of that negative thought process, I lost everything.
And would you have thought in that question, good question, Rosalind, I would think you would have even had that mentality, because I'm guessing when you were playing football, whether it was high school, college, especially college and professionally, your head coach Willie probably wasn't like you let the offensive line guy run the offensive line. correct? But you forget that, I guess, when you.
Yeah, when you're making money and you're thinking as you would know everything, then all that goes out the window.
Got it. All right, one more question. Then I got a couple questions for the gentleman.
Okay. Doug from High Point, North Carolina. Who was a better athlete all around, you or Jonathan?
I'm a better athlete all around.
All right.
I'm better at basketball. I'm better.
What would he say if he was sitting here?
He would say, honestly, he's better at football and golf, but like basketball, baseball, softball, anything like that, pool, I'm a better athlete than he is. So he's got basketball, but he plays a lot of golf. So, I hope you'd be good if you're playing 5-6 times a week. But
he probably kills the ball.
He does.
I saw that, and I was very impressed by this. I saw that he made a 35 on his Wonderlic test. Because I think 20 is average.
22 is average, yep.
So 35, to me, that sounds like you are like made a 1,600 on your SAT.
Something like that. And if you're going to kind of correlate it, that sounds about right.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So I have two questions because we're in the process of writing a book. So a couple questions I wanted to ask you, and if you want to pass on them, so be it, pass on them. But if you want to give me an answer, I'd love it. What is your biggest secret for hiring good people?
You need to trust. You need to talk to your trusted network and ask them who is going to help you the best. Like for me, I found our publisher, Post Hill Press, to one of my network, one of my mentors. She got me in touch with them. So just using your trusted network and asking them who should be your ghostwriter, who should be your publisher, all that kind of stuff. All
right. Yeah. And how would you today, if you were starting a new company, how would you source people if you were hiring today?
Honestly, I would want to find two people. One is like a visionary CEO type, and one is a operational COO type. And then from there, let them do the 4 parts. Well, 3 parts of 4. There's 4 main parts of a successful business. There's marketing, there's sales, there's operations, there's finance. Okay, I would let my CEO run the marketing aspect and the sales aspect. I let the COO run the operations aspect. I would do the finances because I'm the business owner, and I would back them up in the other 3 areas. So you need to find a CEO type, a COO type, and then let them do the 3 main parts of the business. And the 4th part, if you're the owner, you control the finances.
All right. And then personally, last question. You're starting this new company, okay? You got to hire a CEO, CFO, a COO, and your vice president of sales. And your choice of where you can get these people from are from the different players or coaches you played with in the NFL. Who is the CEO that comes to mind that you would make?
I'd hire Jack Del Rio.
He's your CEO.
Yep.
Even though he couldn't get those guys underneath him to.
But again, if guys aren't going to listen to him because of trying to save their own ass, then what good does it do?
No further questions. Now, who's your CFO?
CFO.
It can't be you either. So
CFO from players or coaches. Ooh, I don't know. I don't. A CFO. Let's see here. I would hire John Guy, who was my. He worked as our director of pro personnel with the Bills, and John was very smart with how he positioned stuff and how he maneuvered stuff and finances and knowing who to bring in. So I would say John Guy.
All right. And who's your vice president of sales?
Vice president of sales, I would probably have to go with Brian Billick. I mean, he's just a natural salesman. Like
really?
He just, I mean, he could be kind of an arrogant guy at times, but he means really well. But he's a very good that was one thing he did really well. Like he would win people over. Like now, of course, we would see the real Brian. Like you get mad at practice, he yelling at us, all that. But in the public and on TV and all that, Brian always sold the Ravens well. So I would take Brian Billick.
Who do you think would be the top sales guy after Brian? Who would he hire?
Who would Brian hire?
It has nothing to do right now
you know who
because
I
we'll
would-
hire him.
You know who I would say he'd probably hire? Who's a good Anthony Lynn, who was my running back coach with Jacksonville. Anthony had got a raw deal with San Diego. I think he still should have been head coach, but whatever. But he would probably take Anthony because Anthony was just a good salesman, and he coached Fred Taylor and a couple other great guys.
Who is the best player that you ever played with that really didn't live up to the potential? I'm not saying that they didn't make an all-pro or they weren't good, but they were really so good and they didn't live up to it. Anybody come to mind?
Albert Haynesworth. I mean, Albert should have just been.
South Carolina guy.
Played for the Titans. I mean, Albert Albert physically and genetically was just everything. He was all pro a couple times, but what it got Albert was just his temper. I mean, his temper really got the.
Where
best
is he
of him.
now?
He lives in I want to say he lives in Tennessee.
He's from Hartsville, I think,
Yeah.
South Carolina.
Yeah, and Albert, man, he just had so much talent and great player, and everything physically, genetically was there. But Albert, I think if you were ask him today, he'd be honest and say that he would let people get under his skin, and O-lineman would take cheap shots at him, stuff like that, knowing that he would do that, and then that's kind of what got him fired up. Like, I think he was the first $100 million contract guy. And then it just didn't with Washington.
Yeah.
But it never worked out because Albert just couldn't control his temper, and guys would use his, that fire against him, and then they would get him out of his game. And then next thing he started taking cheap shots at them. Of course, he would get called for, and then that became his MO at that point. Like, he was just a cheap shot guy.
Well, I think Marques Ogden, I think you've said it all today, man. It was a great show, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm so happy that you reached out to us to be on the Shrimp Tank Charleston show today, and I wish you the best of luck tonight.
Thanks, sir.
And I'm sure these guys are going to enjoy this talk that you're going to give to them. Again, you guys want to get a hold of Marques, you can reach him via email or via his website, Marques, Marquez, at Marques Ogden, OGDEN.com. Again, Marquez, Ogden, OGDEN.com, or you can email him at marquesogden.com. Am I right? Did I screw that up?
Marques at marquesogden.com.
Sorry, Marques at Ogden.com.
No,
I can't do this.
Oh, jeez.
Marques at marquesogden.com.
Those are.
You're going to get some complaints on that one for sure.
Yeah. All right, guys, great show today. If you want to listen or watch other episodes, then please take advantage of our YouTube channel as well as podcast channels such as Apple, Google, Spotify. We were also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Our website is shrimptankpodcast.com/Charleston. You can become a subscriber, you can become a fan, or maybe even a guest. If your company is interested in learning more about being a sponsor on the Shrimp Tank Charleston, please contact our producer, Kristen Kilman, at KK@ELLC.com. Again, KK, the letters, at DOUBLEELLC.com. Or you can call her. She's very nice. 843-936-6363. Lastly, if you think you or you know of someone that is an entrepreneur or leader making an impact in our world like a Marques Ogden, again, we don't just take everybody, then please contact Kristen, again, at 843-936-6353, or email her, KK@ELLC, and apply to be on the show. I'm Eric Elkins. Thank you so much, and keep grinding.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.